For the longest time, I've had a fascination with art and grids. So to satisfy that desire I have to create grids and artwork, I'm going to make it about the elements of art. I've always wanted to do this. I've created the grids just using masking tape, and each of these elements of art, line, shape, colour, value, form, texture and space, each one is going to get a little bit of paint. So I've got these really cheap, these are from Kmart, and these are metallic paints. So I thought, how lovely, I'll put down a lovely bit of colour. Not going to have a light fast rating, so that's kind of perfect for your sketchbook. What does it matter what you do in your sketchbook? Oh, down here we've got texture, so I'm going to go straight into textural marks with this paint, and I've got dots, so I'll put another circle. This last example here is about space, and I've drawn over here my little quickie example of a train line going into a mountainside. I used to teach a little bit about perspective when I was teaching kids. That was perfect because I learnt about perspective at the same time as them. As a result of having to teach something, you have to research it, and that's kind of cool because you learn in the process. So each of these has a little bit of colour on it. So let's go back up to line and think about, I've got a little bit of blue there, and then I've got these crayons, these watercolour crayons, and my lovely friend gave me these. I'm going to take a little bit of one of these markers, and because it's wet, I'll get a hard line, and as I go into the wet, I'll get a soft line. How perfect. So lines, you get thick lines, so I'll make a thick line, and that's a jagged line, and I'll go into this wet one here. Smooth lines, curvy lines. When I go into dots, is that a line? I don't know. Now I've got more of a fat line, and I'm going to go into that wet surface. That's the beauty of watercolour crayons, is you go into the wet and you get soft lines. And line is about variation. Line and thinking about line is going to make you think about how to vary your mark. And the beauty of the elements of art is that you can do exactly as you want. You can interpret the use of line in any way that you want as well, of course. So, shape. Here's the traditional shapes that I've started with. I've got a circular shape. I'll go into that circular shape with a black. It's all right. I'll go into I'm going to repeat that these shapes just with black. It's not showing up much at all. And shapes. So we've got circular shapes. Of course, you've got the traditional shapes such as triangles. You've got diamonds. I'm just going to put a shape over a shape. Diamonds. Of course, you've got squares and rectangles. Organic looking shape. I'm just going to colour that in as well, fill it in positively there. So a shape can be absolutely anything that you want it to be, but we know the traditional shapes, and we know what the traditional and non-traditional shapes are. They tend to be lovely and organic. I think this is red, its reading is quite pink. I'm going to go around here just because it's an arty thing to do. Red, a little more red down here. That's a use of contrasting colours, red next to green, which, as we know, this is very soft and subtle, so it doesn't matter. What haven't I used? The blue and the purple. Purple, my absolute favourite. It's still got heaps of pink on it from the brush, so it's reading as pink. And I'm slowly filling in the whole thing. And again, when it's dry, I might come back with some markers and add a little bit of detail, purely for the fun of it. And to finish, I've got blue. This set was so cheap. It's like $5. So I let the kids play with this one quite regularly, and they know that it's a bit special. Okay, value. I'm going to definitely need a white to make this value pop. So white is about dark next to light. it might be the opposite. It might be about just all softness too. Put in some blue sections. Oh, and go to the edge of my tape, because that's just going to make it really beautiful fun when I pull the tape off. It's kind of hard just sometimes to stick to two colours when you've got this cornucopia of colour available to me. Form is definitely about turning something from a square that you've drawn into a cube. So let's give it a little bit of form. Let's use tone or value. I often call it tone. I'm just going to make it light up there, dark there, lighter. We'll see when it dries what that's like over there. Now, to make this little one here more, give it a little more form, I'm going to make this side darker. Give it a little more form over there. Okay. Now, if I'm giving a circle form, then I will make, just lift off. So lovely to do this in watercolour. To make this circle turn into a sphere, we can lift off a little bit. I'm just lifting off and putting it onto my towel. And use a touch of this green and make this side a bit darker. It's a bit hard to do with these paints, but it's just an exercise in thinking about these things, and so it doesn't matter at all. So just for the fun of it, I'm going to go around my form, hopefully my sphere. So we're not talking about plain old circles anymore, we're talking about spheres. Same with the box, we're not talking about a square anymore, we're talking about cubes. We're up to texture, which is my absolute favourite. Nearly every painting of mine will have some version of texture in it for sure. So I began with some lovely dots. Salt creates beautiful texture, but so does water. So I've put this little circle down there in red, and I'm going to, I think I'll just re-enhance that red, maybe inside, and then see if I can create, just with water, just wash my brush and create some textural marks. Maybe all I'm doing is pattern. I'm just trying to lift off little bits. Oh yeah, it's kind of textural. Maybe I go to the, oh, isn't the blue beautiful? I think I'm just in love with the blue. Let's try it again, and I'll go around those. I don't know why I'm doing ovals. Oh, let's make an oval. I've done so many circles. Oval, and then just a bit of water, and see if I can create a textural mark just with water. This is actually really easy to do if I was using traditional watercolours on traditional paper, but this isn't even watercolour paper. I just want to create something quick and easy to demonstrate. Okay, with space, that needs a little bit of detail, and perhaps it could do with a little blue sky. Oh, in love with blue. Let's give it a blue sky. There, blue sky. Example of space and using perspective to create space is you have a big tree in the foreground, and the tree gets smaller, and the tree gets smaller, and the tree gets smaller as you go off into the distance. I'll do that on this side. Big tree in the foreground, smaller, 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 smaller. All those little things create the sense that you are moving into the distance.